So if we don't understand what our pleasure map is, or our blueprint, our archetype, and what our actual main gateway in is, a lot of times we're just using the wrong language or the wrong type of touch or the wrong gateway in. And then we think there's something wrong with us.
Hi, I'm Veronica Cisneros, licensed marriage and family therapist, entrepreneur, and host of the Empowered and Unapologetic podcast. I was 1 month away from divorce. The court papers were filed. We had just had our first daughter, and I felt more alone than ever. My husband told me he was tired of competing with my career. I was overwhelmed, disconnected from my family, and questioning everything I had built. I didn't want to lose my marriage, but I also didn't want to keep losing myself. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I stopped pointing fingers and started doing the work on me. Now, after 25 plus years of marriage, raising 3 daughters, and running a thriving therapy practice, I'm here to help you do the same. This podcast is for the woman who looks like she has it all together, but secretly feels like she's falling apart. We're talking real marriage struggles, parenting teens, rebuilding trust, reclaiming identity, and finally feeling like you again. Pull up a seat. You don't have to figure it out alone. This is Empowered and Unapologetic. What happened to us? You love him, you want to want him, but between work, the kids, and everything else, you feel numb. You've convinced yourself something must be wrong with you. Maybe your hormones, your age, your stress. Maybe you're just not that sexual anymore. But what if that's not the truth? What if your low sex drive isn't broken? What if it's your connection that's out of alignment? Today's guest is going to challenge every story you've told yourself about your body, your libido, and your marriage. Susan Morgan Taylor is a leading somatic sex therapist who helps couples reignite passion and emotional intimacy through the Pleasure Keys process. After her own awakening from a sexless marriage, Susan made it her mission to help women like us, women who have built empires, raised families, held it all together, but lost touch with their own pleasure in the process. With over 25 years of experience in somatic healing, Susan's work isn't about performing or fixing. It's about returning to your body's truth. And if you're a woman who's ever thought, I could run a business, I can raise kids, but I can't seem to feel desire anymore, this episode is for you. What you'll learn. By the end of this episode, you'll walk away with a deep understanding of why your sex drive isn't gone, it's just disconnected, the truth about libido mismatch, and how to stop feeling like you're too much or not enough. A fresh perspective of feminine energy, what it really means, and how to use it to feel more alive in your body, your marriage, and your life. You're not broken. You're just ready to connect. Susan, I am so happy for you to join us and teach us and educate us all about our bodies and help us come to the understanding that nothing's necessarily, well, some of the things are wrong with us, but maybe not everything.
Veronica, that was an amazing introduction. And my goodness, I think you just described who I was over 15 years ago in my marriage, of really like having that thought of maybe I'm just not that sexual.
Yeah.
Not true. And what you said, there's so much that we don't realize, especially as women, that the context and environment that we're in and how that impacts our libido, our sexuality, our desire for intimacy and sex. And I was very much that woman, raising the little kids and in a relationship where I was really not happy, but trying to
Yeah.
convince myself that I was. And, I just thought, well, I guess I'm just not that sexual. It did not turn out to be true. When I left that marriage, my sex drive came back online like some other animal that I had never met before. And I thought, wow, this is what people are talking about. What
Yeah.
is this life force that's in me that was just so beautiful and vibrant and alive and passionate, and it just felt so good to come back to life. And I know that so many women struggle and are that woman that I was 15 years ago. You know, I found my way out of that and through that, and that's kind of where you're finding me today. And I'm just so passionate about this topic, and specifically about women's sexuality, because there's just so much still, even to this day, there's still a lot of myths and information that we're fed, even that came out years ago, that we're still carrying around, these
Yeah.
ideas that we've been told that are, it's simply not true. And I can't wait to dig in on that with you today and help your listeners really learn more about their bodies, their pleasure, desire, and their feminine energy. I'm so excited for this conversation.
So, Susan, will you break down the real reasons women lose desire?
Yeah, so I mean there's a lot of reasons, but one of there, so you know, if you're a woman who's in a marriage and you've been married a long time, long-term relationship,
Yeah.
especially if you've got kids and let's say you're also working, we tend to neutralize with our partner. We're going through the daily grind together, and a lot of times we're in do mode, we're like get shit done mode,
Yeah.
right? Like taking care of the kids, going to work. We're very much not in a state where we're in our pleasure. We're
Yep.
in what we could call, if we're going to talk about polarities, you know, you've got basically the positive and negative polarity, the masculine, the feminine. It doesn't mean man and woman. I'm not talking about gender, but energetically where we're drawing from when we're getting stuff done, we're running a business, we're raising kids, we're trying to keep the house clean, and we're also trying to please our husbands. That's not the mode of feminine energy, which is where for most women, if we have a feminine sexual essence, where we're going to thrive and feel the most pleasure is actually through relaxation and through non-doing, through
Yeah.
our receiving, our capacity to receive. And as natural givers, a lot of women are actually very disconnected from their capacity to deeply receive. So that's one reason why we lose interest. And there's others. I'll pause and let you comment on that, and then I'll share some other reasons with you.
No, a good, I hear this all the time. So many, especially so many women listening right now, they love their husbands, but they say they just don't feel it anymore. They're
Yeah.
exhausted, touched out. And like I said, they feel numb.
Yeah.
Um, when you go into when you go into the doctor's office, and it's really difficult to say, like, I'm not sexual anymore, help me orgasm, or help me get to a place where I want to be intimate with my husband. What are things we should know about our body with regards to what we're
Mhm.
experiencing, especially those in like that 35 to 45-year-old age?
Yeah. Well, right. First of all, if there's this depletion, you have to address that first. So we have to get out of giving mode. You have to be start to get into what are your desires and what fills your tank. And I don't only mean intimately, but also like what did you give up when you started your business or when you had the
Yeah.
kids and when you got married? Like, is we tend to give up our own passions and interests a lot of times as women. So on a really fundamental level, it's like, can you just start to get back into some of that stuff? What makes you smile? What makes you feel alive? Can you take on a new hobby? So there's that aspect. We have to refill in that regard. And then also, what are our desires intimately in the bedroom? Can we learn how to just receive instead of
Hmm.
trying to do it for him? And let's just keep him happy so he gets it over
Yeah.
with. Can you get back in touch with what would feel good for you? Can you just relax and get out of this doing mode even in the bedroom? That's really the gateway into our refilling the tank when we're depleted, and then also learning how to access our own enjoyment and pleasure. And I think there was something else I was going to answer on that question, but my brain like went down this aspect of the answer. I forgot what the other part was. So maybe you can comment on that or ask it again, and I'll find it.
Well, I do want to touch on something that I didn't think about, and it's just kind of like light bulb moment happened. For a good amount of women, we are 1,000% givers. Some of us codependent, but 1,000% givers, right? And
Mhm.
I love how you said give to yourself first, because oftentimes women will avoid sex because it's one more thing on my to-do list,
Right, the
right?
to-do
It's one more
list,
thing
yeah.
I need to do to make him feel better, make him feel secure in the marriage. And yeah, once it becomes a chore, yeah, nobody wants to have sex. Nobody wants to do another chore when they're
Right,
chore list
exactly.
are right?
And you know
Right?
what? Your husband doesn't want it either. I've never heard a
No.
man say he loves it when his wife gives him sex out of obligation. Like, said
Yeah.
no man ever, unless that's your kink, and that's fine. But, for most people, most men, that's not the case. They want you to want to have sex. And I think a way to deal with that, like it's so funny because I just had one of my readers on my blog wrote in and asked, had a very similar situation to what you're speaking to. You know, they had three really young kids. She was pregnant with their fourth on the way, touched out, not interested, you know, focused on the house and the kids. And he's like, how do I get her to want to connect with me? And one of the things that I said to that is, if you can, even just having, and it's very hard when you've got little kids running around. I mean, the context and the environment has totally changed. So her hormones are different. Your attention and energy is plugged into the house. But one of the things you can do is have what I call like intimacy time, where you both just get naked. There
Mm-hmm.
is no talking allowed during this intimacy date. Okay. You just get naked, you're eye to eye, chest to chest, breath to breath, skin to skin, body to body, and just practice just being present and just feeling, even breathing together, feeling your body, noticing sensations, slowing down and it doesn't have to lead anywhere. So that's part of it too. We can just have a moment where there's no pressure for this to have to turn into anything.
Yeah.
And maybe even a really nice a soothing massage for her. I recommend also, it's really nice for the nervous system, is like very grounding touch. So if we're taking, take both hands and pressing down, nice firm and static touch. So not lots of light,
Yeah.
airy touch, but really firm. It's called grounding or earthing touch. Even the weight of the whole body helps to soothe the nervous system. It's one of the reasons we swaddle little babies. It helps, them not to cry because
Yeah.
it's soothing to the nervous system. So for someone who's, busy and working and stressed out and taking care of kids, that type of touch can be very soothing and helping her to ground into her body. And from there, then maybe some nice sensual touch feels good, but don't go straight for the genitals. So that's the thing, right? It's like, she's like, a lot of times sex moves way too quickly. We think of
Yeah.
sex and all we think of is genitals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't work for everybody. We're actually wired different ways. And especially if she's already kind of stressed and touched out, it might even be just something, we never think of this as a form of touch, but
Oh,
no
beautiful.
touch at all. It's radical, right? What if you just hover your hands? Or what if you just make eye contact and breath and you just breathe each other in? That could be
Mm-hmm.
exceptionally erotic and orgasmic. And for some people, even more so than going straight for the genitals. There's only a certain percentage of us that are really wired where like that explicit genital touch right out of the gate is really what does it for us. Others of us have different pathways in to our arousal. So there's so much more on the table, and we just get stuck in habits, I think, and just lack of education. Oh,
Yes.
when you asked about our bodies, I'd love to get into that more too. Like, what do
Yes,
we not know
please.
about our bodies? Yeah.
Yes. So please educate us.
Okay.
Like what
Yeah.
do we need to know more about our
Yeah.
bodies?
Well, we need to know that what studies have shown, I can't remember which study this was. There might be other ones out there now or not, but it's on average 21 or more minutes of foreplay before a woman will be consistently orgasmic during
Mm-hmm.
penetrative sex. So
Yep.
again, we're limited here. We're just talking about penetration. Not all women have found the pathway of orgasm through penetration. I believe every woman can. That's my belief. It's not that they can't, they just haven't yet. But what that's telling us is that we need to slow down. And partly that has to do with how our anatomy is structured. A woman has the same amount of erectile tissue in her sexual anatomy that a man does in his penis, but in the woman's body, it's spread out over a number of different organs and over a larger area. So as we're warming up the body, it takes sometimes a little more time. There's these different structures that become engorged. And unfortunately, what tends to happen is most men tend to be ready for penetration. They get hard pretty quick. And
Yeah.
so they're ready. And so as women, we think, well, I guess we just need to do it then because he's ready. And I would feel bad if I made him wait, or he might get frustrated. I don't want to be an inconvenience. So let's just stick it in. But meanwhile, her body has maybe only had 2 minutes or 20 seconds or not enough time for her to really be a full, yes, I want this now. It's a
Yeah.
very different state of being, and it's actually extremely subtle. And as women, until we really take time to learn our bodies and to know what it feels like when we're a full and willing yes, and our bodies, everything's fully engorged and it's ready and it really wants penetration, we're having penetration happen too soon. And
Gotcha.
the flip side of that is most men on average are done because they ejaculate within 2 to 7 minutes on average. That's the average depending on what study you consult. So if that's happening, there's not a lot happening in it for her, to the extent that if that happens over and over and over again, she's going to shut down and lose interest in sex because there's just nothing in it for her. She's not reaching
Mhm.
climax. Maybe it feels a little bit good. Maybe she's a little wet, but it's really not at the full capacity of her pleasure and what her body is capable of doing.
I love that. I've one of my best friends, she's a sexologist, and she was sharing how toys also kind of bridge that gap, since women are a little more delayed with reaching orgasm than men. Can you talk to us about some of that?
So yeah, so I think toys can be great for some women. I think they have a place, especially if a woman has never had an orgasm and she's trying to find that pathway. I think they can really be awesome. I think the flip side of that is you can get dependent on the toy and only being able
Mm.
or believing that that's the only way that you can orgasm, which isn't true. We have a million different ways, maybe not a million, but a lot of other pathways in our body of how we can and a lot of different types of orgasm. However, the toys are really good, just to kind of help a woman kind of have that and kind of get over if there's challenges there. And then some people really love to use toys and that's just their preference, and that is great and that's fine too. And again, I think my brain is not fully online today because I feel like there was more I wanted to say about that, but I'll find it again. Yeah. So
All right, you talk about how libido mismatch is a myth. That's going to shock
mhm,
a lot of people. Can you
yeah.
unpack what you mean by that and what's really
Yeah.
happening when one partner wants more intimacy than the other?
Well, okay. So I actually just created a really awesome assessment on this called the sexual speedometer test. So
Ooh,
if anybody wants to understand how they're wired, go take that test. It's at sexualspeedometertest.com. But one of the ways to look at there's a couple ways that I look at this. So one is your combination of sexual breaks and sexual accelerators, also called your sexual excitation system and your sexual inhibition system, almost like a sexual nervous system. So in our
okay.
nervous system, we have both the parasympathetic and sympathetic, same in our sexual nervous system. So we all have a different way of how our brakes might come on. And sometimes some of us have much more sensitive breaks. So for some women, for a lot of women, it might be like, oh my gosh, like if the kids are in the house, like I just can't relax, or I need everything just right in the room, or I get distracted and my turn on just disappears, or if my
Mhm.
partner moves too fast, I lose interest. All right, so that's where the brakes are getting kicked on. And then we also have an excitation system, which can also be very sensitive or not so sensitive.
Okay.
If you have a very sensitive excitation system, sometimes it's just how, or an average one, how do we just get those breaks off? Can we start to work with, do you need to take a hot bath? Do you need to make sure the kids are out of the house? Do you need to make sure the temperature of the room is just right? There's things that we can do to get the breaks off. And there's also things we can do if you have a low or a slow accelerator. There's things we can do to get that accelerator, like that engine on a car. We can get that actually running more quickly. We have to be more intentional about it if you have a slow accelerator. So, number one, I look at that and where people are on that scale. Go
Mhm.
take the assessment. It's super easy. It takes less than 10 minutes. It's going to give you tons of information about your body and then have your partner take it too. And then I give tips and advice for how to get back on the same page. So there's that happening, which isn't really we have to get out of this black or white conversation around high and low libido because the other part of it is what I touched on a minute ago. Not all of us get aroused by direct genital touch like right away. So we tend to think that that's the route to go because we're having sex or we're being
Yeah.
sexual. So we have to have kissing, breast, butt, genitals, everything right away because we're being sexual, we're having
Yeah.
sex or being intimate, right? But like I said, there's different pathways in. We actually have different routes. So some people might like to again have more spaciousness, more flirting, more teasing, maybe no touching or just very light touching
Mhm.
is the gateway in. So playing in that realm or very sensual. Some of us are wired sensually where we want to have be really close and cuddled. We want to have
Yeah.
candles and the lighting and the mood just right. We want to feel no pressure for it to have to lead anywhere. If there's pressure, our turn on goes away right away. If it moves too quick to the genitals, our turn on disappears right away. Others
Gotcha.
of us need much more intense type of touch or more psychologically stimulating, fantasizing, sharing of kinks, psychological kink and fantasy is really the route into their turn on. So if we don't understand what our pleasure map is, or our blueprint, our archetype, and what our actual main gateway in is, a lot of times we're just using the wrong language or the wrong type of touch or the wrong gateway in. And then we think there's something wrong with us. Well, I must be broken because he got hard right away. And like, I just wasn't feeling turned on, even though he was
Yeah.
kissing me and touching me a lot. Well, that's probably because you are not wired through that direct sexual genital touch right away. You need something else as your gateway in, and we just need to find what that is. So it's not that you're low libido; it's that you're not accessing the right uh, door to get into your turn on.
I love that. Yeah, I get a lot of women that that ask that question. It's I
Hmm.
have low libido, and it's like I don't know how true that is, girlfriend. I don't know how
Yeah.
true that is, right? Nothing breaks my heart more than watching women pour into everyone else and feel like they've completely lost themselves in the process. That's why I have founded Outside the Norm Counseling, because therapy shouldn't feel like one more thing on your to-do list. It should feel like relief. I'm Veronica Cisneros, licensed marriage and family therapist and host of the Empowered and Unapologetic podcast. And I know what it's like to look around at your life and think, why does everything feel fine, but feel so off? At Outside the Norm Counseling, we help women who are high functioning on the outside, but silently falling apart inside. Women who are waking up overwhelmed, snapping at the people they love, and carrying guilt that never seems to lift. And if you're not ready for therapy, that's okay. Let's start small. With my self-paced course, Reignite Your Marriage and Reclaim Your Identity. This is for you, not your husband. Because when you reconnect with yourself, everything else begins to shift. Head to OutsideTheNormCounseling.com to start. Remember, you don't have to keep holding it all together. You just have to take the first step. In your own story, you mentioned awakening from a sexless marriage. What was the breaking point for you, and what did it teach you about desire and connection?
Yes, and believe it or not, it wasn't really the marriage that was the breaking point. I left the marriage sort of for other reasons that weren't really completely about the sex. I mean, I had a lot of desire to be more sexual, but I was the one who was shut down and disinterested. So it
Yeah.
wasn't really like the sex that broke it. Where it came, the breaking point was a couple years later after I left the marriage. I was in another relationship with a man who I thought was going to really rock my world. You know what I did? Because I didn't know I wanted something more and deeper. And I knew these full body orgasms were a thing. And I just wasn't able to figure out how to do that with my husband. And I just thought, well, he's just not a good lover. So surely, there's other men that know more, have more skill, right? So I met this man who promised me all kinds of amazing sexual experiences. And he had actually had training and, was all supposedly like Mr. Casanova in the bedroom and knew how to do all this stuff and was like, "Oh, I'm going to make your body how you want a full body orgasm. I'll give you that." Right. And I thought, well, this is great. Like, I'm finally going to have this experience. Well, he did not deliver. He did not deliver. And I was sort of finding myself in the same place that I was, a couple years before in my marriage. That relationship ended almost as quickly as it began. But where it left me was realizing I was like, go on.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
But
good.
the greatest gift, one of the greatest gifts from that experience was that I realized, like, wow, this man came in and said he's going to give me all these experiences. Well, surely, if he could give them to me, it's my body doing it. So I
Yeah.
probably don't need him to give those experiences to me. Surely I can find how my body can have those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I set off on the study of my own sexuality, which entailed having a pleasure date with myself once a week, where I would, just really sit down and learn my own body, touch myself intimately and genitally, and start to become more embodied, more present in my body, more aware of sensations. And I had a moment during one of these self pleasure practices where I really started to have breakthroughs. First, all the emotions started pouring out, stuff from years and years and even my childhood that I just hadn't
Yeah.
fully allowed myself to feel. It was almost like a energy moving from my genitals up and out my heart as I would cry or I would just let myself go there. And man, I went really, really deep into that. And suddenly what I noticed is I started having more sensation. So the more that I was able to say yes to what was there and just let my body process and move and make sound and cry and feel, I started to have more sensations and more sexual arousal until one day, only really a few weeks after I, embarked on this journey with myself, I had a moment where I had a massive amount of pleasure that rolled up, started in the bottom of my feet and just rolled up through my whole body. And I remember my hands were like tingling and felt like I had like giant gloves on or something, like vibrating. My face was numb and vibrating and tingling. And all this pleasure and all this love suddenly just poured out of my heart. And I had tears streaming down my eyes. And suddenly I'm like, oh my God, I'm having a full body orgasm. This is it. This is
Mm.
the thing. And I hadn't tried for it. I wasn't trying to make it happen. All I had done was I had removed some of the obstacles, like some of the stuck emotions. I
Yeah.
had learned how to relax and I had learned how to be fully present in my body and not up in my head. I
Yeah.
wasn't having fantasies. I wasn't thinking about, my to-do list. I was just present in my body and saying yes to the moment as it was arising. And I have this massively blissful moment where I realize, like, oh my gosh, nobody can give this to me. Nobody
Yeah.
gives me orgasms. Nobody gives me love. And pleasure is just a natural state, as is orgasm, that's already in me. It's like a thing that happens in my body when
Hmm.
the conditions are right. And that was the moment where I knew I was going to help other women and I was going to become a sex therapist. And
I
that's
love
where I
that.
am today.
I love that. I love, love, love that. That you were able to just realize how much pent up stress, how much pent up trauma, how much pent up emotions you had within. And that self reflection really, really helped you just not only let go, but just really, really become connected with your body.
Yeah, which is really, yeah, and I want to highlight that it's not even self reflection, it's our willingness to feel. And when we talk
Mm,
about women's libido and our sexuality and our turn on, it is highly correlated with your capacity to feel your emotions. And to be willing to just say yes to all of them, the whole range.
yeah.
That's really what feminine expression is about. It's about, can I embody the full range? We're really taught to be good little girls and don't be angry and be nice. But that is at the expense of our own erotic nature and our own wild sexuality and our capacity to really have orgasmic experiences that are more than just, a couple seconds of pleasure in the clitoris. These
Hmm.
full bodied or even, G spot orgasms or cervical orgasms are really about relaxation and our awareness being in the body on the sensations where our mind is really not involved at all.
Yeah.
Ideally, the mind isn't even online. We can always get it back. It's not like we're checking out and going to the loony bin, but
Yeah.
it's really about developing that pathway. And that's why the name of my business is Pathway to Pleasure. And we think that a lot of women put pressure on themselves. I have to, if you have challenges with orgasm, a lot of women are like, well, I'm trying to have an orgasm when I'm with my partner and we're trying and he's trying and we're trying. We're actually working against
Yep.
where the orgasm lives. It's a path. All we're doing is trying to open a pathway. It's not an end game or a destination. And when we learn to relax, to be present, and to receive and
Yep.
respond to sensation, that's all orgasm really is. And so in that light, it makes us feel less broken, I think, if we can look at
Hmm.
it that way.
Yeah. I love that. Let's talk about feminine energy because it's a term that can feel confusing or even
Yeah.
triggering for some women. What does feminine energy really mean in a modern marriage?
Yeah. So if we just think of what is the feminine, it's the expression of energy and love. It is expressed through physicality, through the body, through movement, through sound, and through feeling and through desire.
Yeah.
So what does that actually mean and what does that look like on a practical level? I'll give you something really simple that like your listeners can take with them today
Yes.
immediately that could probably change a lot of things in their
Let's do it.
marriage.
Everybody's having
Okay.
sex tonight.
Like, okay, yeah, so if you were to practice, so if we start, so quit telling your husband what to do, number one. Let's start with that. When we're in our directive, hey, do this, go there, touch me, like even like touch me. It is so good to know how to say touch me like this and like that and like that and make this adjustment and to the left and to the invaluable. And I think honestly, we need to learn that first before we can really artfully do what I'm going to share with you now. But you'll
Interesting.
notice a lot of us as women, we're doing that in many areas of our life. We're
Mhm.
probably not doing it in the bedroom, and we're doing it everywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's using our masculine directive, goal oriented, produce a result, do this thing. I'm giving orders essentially when we're in that mode, which is awesome. And we all need it and we can all be really good at it. But the feminine mode of communicating is from desire and from feeling. So what that looks like would be something like, like I feel I feel so overjoyed right now just being here with you. And I'm wondering what it would feel like to have your lips on mine. Do you see how different that is from get over here and
Mhm.
kiss me right now? That's hot
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
Right? But it's different. It could even be like, gosh, oh gosh, I feel so cold right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just sharing a feeling. I'm not saying, will you go get me a blanket or will you shut the door? That's fine. That's direct. We need access to that too. But what that can do, it can give your man the opportunity to drop into more of his masculine capacity of,
Mhm.
oh, let me get you a blanket, or would you like me to shut the door or turn on the heat? They go into the doing mode, and then we can actually be in another aspect of the feminine, which is receiving. We can practice receiving. So practicing feeling and practicing receiving, those are two fundamental aspects of feminine
Yeah.
energy if we want to work on that. Another one is the movement through the body, of actually channeling that feeling through movement and through sound. So that's why one of the hottest things that a man could ever witness, every man will tell you this, most likely if you ask him, the hottest thing is seeing his wife or his partner immersed in her own pleasure
Yes.
and moving and writhing and having sounds and like, oh my God, like just to see that, like men pay money for that. I
That
mean,
we
we
do.
have that. Women, this is our power. This is our absolute power. Men pay money for this stuff. So just keep that in mind. If you're resentful about what I'm saying, and look at it as a spectrum. Okay, you might have good access already to your masculine capacities. We need that. We got to stay alive. We got to get stuff done. But we can
Mhm.
start to
Mhm.
cultivate more of our feminine aspects. And there's different ways to do that: dance, going out into nature, even paying more attention to your breath and to your body as you even just walk through the house, being more
Yes.
embodied in your hips and in your heart, moving and having sound, using sound during intimacy, practicing with that.
Mhm.
That's how we cultivate that
Mhm.
femininity, and it will polarize your partner into his masculine energy. So if a woman's complaining, "Oh, he's not masculine enough," well, be more feminine. That's all you got to do. That's the
Yes.
art.
Yes. You've developed the pleasure key process. Can you walk us through what that looks like in practice? What are the first
Yeah,
steps a woman can
I'll
take?
give you, well, I've already given you a little bit of it. So
Yes, you have.
it's essentially three triads, which consist of three wisdom codes. So these, what I call like these nine principles or nine wisdom codes. It's broken down into these three triads, is how I teach it. I've
Okay.
already touched on one of them, which has to do with relaxation, is really the gateway into pleasure. We have to learn how to come fully into our bodies in a relaxed state. And part of that's just a simple science thing. It's a nervous system coming out of the fight or flight sympathetic nervous system and into parasympathetic, which is where we experience pleasure and arousal.
Yep.
And orgasm. It all happens in our parasympathetic. So if that part's offline, it's going to be very hard, if not impossible, to have sexual desire. So
Mhm.
relaxation is really that first piece. And there's different practices I teach for how do we practice conscious relaxation, because people are like, I'm trying to relax. Well, you're already in the wrong direction. Right? If you're trying to do anything, you're not relaxed, right? And then the other pieces I already talked about is holding that awareness in the body, meaning it's very, very simple. We shift our awareness to sensations,
Yeah.
just to physical sensations. That's all we do. And it's just exercising a muscle, because you're going to pop back up into the head and start thinking about stuff. Can I just come back to what am I aware of right now as a physical sensation in the body? And as we do that and we get better at that, we're able to discern more subtle layers of sensation, which
Mm.
comes down to emotions and eventually energy, flows of energy through the body. It's a much subtler level. So those are the first two, which makes us more present. Now we're fully here in the present moment and available for everything and anything that's arising. We're not in the past, we're not in the future, we're here. So that's really the first triad of the pleasure keys: um, relaxation, awareness, and presence.
Mm.
The one other piece I'll give you that's simple enough to do on a podcast, I teach this in my retreats that I host for couples, by the way. I go deep into these and we learn all of them, all the practices, and I lead you very clearly like through each, and it's all very intuitive. But this one's very easy to remember as well for a podcast. The second triad is what I call the 3 N's. And this is about noticing, naming, and
Mm-hmm.
then negotiating.
Ooh, okay.
I'll pause for a minute because I've been talking a lot. I want to let you comment, and then I'll go into what the 3 N's are if you'd
No,
like.
I'm definitely ready for the 3 N's. Girls, grab a pen and paper. We're taking notes.
You know what, girl? Okay. So we have that foundation first of that first triad where we're learning to be in the body. We're noticing sensation. We're, coming into relaxation in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 N's, first, we're noticing the sensation in the body.
Yes,
So if we're
mindfulness.
sitting here, you and
Mhm.
I right now, I could invite you, like, Veronica, what do you notice? What sensation are you aware of right now in your body? If you just take a minute to shift your attention, your awareness into the physical, I'm sure you can probably find something pretty quick.
Oh, tight, tight.
Okay. You notice tightness. Where do you feel the tightness?
Hmm. Tightness in the chest.
Awesome. So you just did the first two. You noticed and you named.
Hmm.
You named the location. Another aspect of noticing is also noticing, what do I want or what do I need? So, it might be you could try that. So if you notice the tightness in your chest right now, is there
Yeah.
something you want or need?
Oh, girl,
Or
I want
just
to
fine.
be, I want to have today off. I need to
I
cancel
know.
all of the podcast episodes after this.
Oh, girl, I know. I so hear you. I mean, I'm a podcast host myself. I know it can be a lot. So you look at that. So what you just did, you just noticed the body, you noticed the sensation, you named it. You also noticed a need or a desire, that you really have this desire just to sort of go into rest. So the
Mm-hmm.
third N would be negotiating. And so what that could look like, if it's just with yourself, maybe you negotiate with yourself. Maybe you do need to cancel some
Yeah.
podcast interviews. Maybe you power through it and you take a good rest out. I mean, so you negotiate with yourself. But really, when I'm speaking of negotiation, it's usually in the not the vertical alignment, which is within ourselves, but the horizontal between yourself and another human. How do I negotiate? Um, this is where when we have two opposite desires, or the high libido, low libido, or he wants this and I want that, and how do we get on the same page? The negotiating aspect of the pleasure keys process is where we learn how to do that. We learn, and that takes us into the third triad, which it's much more nuanced and complex. We don't have time to get into that here,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a whole set of skills for literally creating clarity over
Yeah.
how we start to negotiate getting our needs met and getting our desires fulfilled in a way where nobody's tolerating or sacrificing or giving in just out of obligation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real skill set that we can't really do effectively if we don't have access to these first the first skills that we learn in those first two triads.
Absolutely.
Right? If we don't even know what we need, how are we going to go into negotiating to get what we want? We're probably going to
Mhm.
default to whatever the other person wants because we don't
Yep.
know. Right? So it's a very intuitive process, and what it ultimately comes down to, it's about creating that clarity and then also having the language to do it. How do we do that? There's specific languaging that we use and a very specific structure, sort of like a lens that you're looking through every situation through. Anytime there's sort of what I call train wreck moment, or
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on and this is happening and we don't know why. If you slow down, you look at it, it's a lens that you can look through. You can always navigate yourself back to the earliest possible point, and then from there you move forward. That's how you move through the pleasure keys. Usually
Yes.
it's going back to noticing, but sometimes we go all the way back to, oh, let's start back at just relaxation and
Mhm.
coming into sensation in the body. Then we can go into the want or the need and naming it, right? So we tend to jump ahead too
Yes, we
quickly. A
do.
lot of couples go straight into negotiating, right? And that's why there's train wrecks happening all the time, because they haven't developed that foundational skill before negotiating can really happen effectively.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you're, name it, and then the negotiation, or you said name it. No, what was the first
Notice,
one? Say it
name, the
again.
3 N's.
Notice,
Notice, first the
name.
notice. What do I
I wanted to
notice?
go into
Exactly.
identify. Yes, I wanted to go into identify.
Yes.
No, I love that. That's a
Never
crucial.
the
So
name.
that's one of the crucial skills with being able to self-regulate, is being able to notice. I tend to use identify, so that's what was mixing me up.
Yeah,
But I
that
love that.
works
I
too.
love, love, love that. That's all part of it. Susan, I feel like we can talk for like 3 more hours and we can all be like sexual, connected, intimate goddesses at the end of this. So I know you have a long day, and so do I. Thank you so much for being here today. Your honesty and wisdom gave us permission to look at intimacy in a new way, not as something to fix, ladies, but as something to feel. To every woman listening right now, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. You don't need to try harder, look sexier, or pretend to want something you don't. You just need to reconnect with yourself because that's where desire lives. So, where can we find you for those that are like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love Susan. I need her in my life?
Oh, yes. Well, I would love that. Thank you for the invitation on that. So everything lives at pathwaytopleasure.com. That is my website where all my offerings live. I do offer a complimentary consultation if someone's really feeling like they want to just see what it would be like to work with someone like myself. I just invite you to reach out. You can book that on my website. And then I have the sexual speedometer test, which I highly recommend you go take it because it's going to give you that piece of information that oftentimes is missing. Have your partner or your husband take the test as well, and you'll see what your combination of sexual breaks and sexual accelerators are. And then I give you some actionable tips right away for things that you can start to try and implement right away to either get those breaks off or get that accelerator going, and how you get back on the same page.
I am excited. I can't wait to take these Dean tests. I cannot wait. Susan, thank you for reminding us of that truth. And to my listeners, if this episode hit home, share it with a friend, leave a review, and let's keep this conversation going. You are empowered, you are unapologetic, and you are worthy of deep, lasting connection. Thank you again, Susan.
Thank you so much.
Raise your hand if you are ready to level up your marriage for 2023. Do you find that you're spending your time together with your husband checked out and in front of the TV? I know you're ready for tangible strategies that actually get you results. Reignite the spark in your marriage, have fun, and grow together. Well, I hope you have your hand raised at this minute because I have something special for you. I'm introducing my brand new 6-question marriage predictor quiz that's gonna give you personalized results to catapult you into the next stage of your marriage journey. That means you'll receive the results to where your marriage can get the best help. If you've got just 1 minute, head to veronicacisneros.org/quiz. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/quiz, and you could take my brand new quiz, Marriage Predictor. Get your results delivered right to your email address. Again, that's veronicacisneros.org/quiz, veronicacisneros.org/quiz. What's up, ladies? Just want to let you guys know that your ratings and reviews for this podcast are greatly appreciated. If you love this podcast, please go to iTunes right now, write a review, rate the episode, and subscribe. Don't forget to share it with your friends.